Hello again, my name is Marty Braden and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this channel is where I review my book, An Atheist Delusion. This is part 18 and I'm getting really close to finishing a review of my introduction that leads into the chapters of An Atheist Delusion, which is my response to Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion. I closed off part 17 by asking, why would Joseph Smith continue to make the outlandish claim that the number of stars and planets were numberless as the sands of all the earth's beaches, an unsubstantiated claim for his day? In doing so, it held him up for ridicule and eventual discrediting. Joseph even claimed that there were countless inhabited planets, even Earths like this one, an outrageous proposition for the science of his day. But today's, it's considered to be a serious possibility by respected science. So let's pick it up from where I left it off, and it's going to be starting some new quotes by Mr. John Lamb. Here are more excerpts, it says, from John Lamb's book. Let me give just a couple more modern discoveries that Joseph spoke of and taught openly about 170 years before such discoveries occurred in our day. 170 years. In Doctrine and Covenants, section 76, verses 10, we read, "For by my Spirit will I enlighten them, and by my power will I make known unto them the secrets of my will," those mysteries of godliness. Yes, even those things which eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor yet entered even into the heart of man. Man, science is certainly the search for knowledge about our world and what reality is. What the eye can't see for centuries was where things were left, or should I say remained unknown, which drew scientists to dig deeper in their search of that unseen knowledge. Normally, you and I rely on our five senses to gather information about the world around us, as for thousands of years, humans had no way to argue these senses beyond what the unaided sensory organs could perceive. That is why astronomy is the oldest of the sciences, because regularities in the heavens could only be observed with the naked eye. But with the invention of the telescope and the microscope around the same time, we began to realize that there exists things in nature that we previously had no idea existed. Things or ideas that mankind had never seen, nor had they ever imagined them before. In the early years of the 17th century, Galileo saw 4 moons circling Jupiter using the primitive telescope he had built. At about the same time, Van Leeuwenhoek, wow, it's an interesting name, saw microorganisms in a droplet of water using his primitive microscope. Today, with our current powerful telescopes and microscopes, what the eye can't see has been changed to what the eye can see. We can only imagine what the James Webb telescope will reveal to us in the coming months and years. Since those early times where people questioned if what was being observed was real or just a byproduct of the device, today's binoculars, telescopes, and microscopes have become much more sophisticated, making such discoveries further and further removed from our natural senses. End of Dr. Lamb's comments. Modern people like Richard Dawkins often express pride in not believing in God because he is not seen, nor are our spirits that inhabit our bodies seen when people die. Yet they simultaneously take for granted the existence of all kinds of things that cannot be seen by our natural eyes or even by scientific means, at least not so far. I'm speaking, of course, of such things as the atom and proton and quarks and even dark matter, so forth. But they accept what they analyze, the effects that they can measure, and they then use these effects to proclaim their discoveries of science exist, and do so with confidence and assurance. In other words, they say the new unseen worlds are not made up of spirits and are made by the invisible God, but are made up of microbes, atoms, photons, and quarks that they cannot see. The fact is that it takes real faith for scientists too to believe in these unseen things, just as I and other theists exercise informed faith, right? Well, here's why. The belief in the existence of such things as the unseen world of the spirits, angels, and God himself, as well as the sense that there is more to our world than just our existence in it, even though we cannot see such things with our natural eye or any powerful device in existence today, especially at the micro level, is nonetheless a driving force behind man's universal need to believe in such unseen things. This curiosity about the unseen world is what drives scientists to continue to do science, right? C.S. Lewis said, this universal need by most of mankind throughout all of history is one of the strongest evidences that proves God exists, end quote. Didn't Richard say one of his consciousness raisers was, quote, why belief is so ubiquitous, but not because God exists? To me, this belief that there's more to our world than just what we can see with our eyes is the result of our inner sense, our inner voice saying that there is more. I'm going to use the example of an unseen yet real existence of an atom and its parts to make my point. Because even today, an atom has never been seen, even through the highest powered electron microscope. Yet all scientists believe, to the point of saying they know, that they do exist, due to this different kind of scientific tool that measures and records the atom's effects on things. Does that sound familiar? In an article written by Lynn Charles Rathbun titled World's Most Powerful Microscope, Lynn said, quote, the light from the thing that we want to see is magnified with lenses in a microscope, and we see a virtual image of that tiny thing. The smallest thing that we can see with a light microscope is about 500 nanometers. A nanometer is 1/billionth. That's 1 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros after it of a meter. So the smallest thing that you can see with a light microscope is about 200 times smaller than the width of a hair. Bacteria are about 1,000 nanometers in size. The reason we can't see anything smaller is that these microscopes use light. We don't think about light as having a size, but visible light is about 500 to 800 nanometers. To see anything smaller, we need a more powerful microscope. Electron microscopes see things using electrons instead of light. Wow! Electrons are much smaller than the wavelength of visible light, and so much smaller things can be seen with these electron microscopes. The pictures that you get from an electron microscope are black and white because we need visible light to have colors. Sometimes we see electron microscope pictures that have colors. Scientists add those colors, like Dennis Kunkel, to help point out important things, or sometimes because they just look cool. The world's most powerful microscopes don't see things with light or even electrons. They see things by feeling with a very sharp tip on the end of something that looks like a needle. Sometimes scientists put carbon nanotubes on the end of that needle that makes it even sharper. A tip so sharp that it's only a few atoms wide. Wow! A tip so sharp that as it moves across something, it feels its shape, measures its effect around it as it feels the effects. And I'm going to show you a picture on my little video thing of what that little needle microscope is all about. This very powerful microscopes are called atom force microscopes because they can see, feel, quote, things by the forces between atoms, by the forces between atoms. Man, the brilliance of these people, I'm just in awe. So with an atomic force microscope, you can see things as small as a strand of DNA or even individual atoms. Of course, the word see actually means measuring or feeling the effects of something that exists, but it's too small to actually see it in picture form using our natural eyes. These microscopes, using computers to help convert the information from tapping on a sample to make a 3D dimensional view of the object, that's incredible. So with the world's most powerful microscope, scientists have been able to see DNA, to feel the individual atom's effects, and draw a picture of it, and report that it's a double helix, just like Watson and Crick showed over 50 years ago. End of Lynn Charles Rathbun's article. Fantastic article. With this example of how scientists can see very small pieces of matter such as DNA, I think it's a great time to bring in a brief discussion on matter itself. Joseph Smith taught that matter cannot be created or destroyed, and that spirit matter was just more fine or purer than other matter, end quote. Like the atom, it cannot be seen with the natural eye, nor with the strongest, most powerful microscope in use today. But we know this matter exists. Here are a few excerpts from a message given by Parley P. Pratt, a close friend of Joseph Smith, titled Eternal Duration of Matter, that I found quite enlightening. and I hope you do too. Here it is, quote, "By the end of the 18th century, modern scientists, modern scientific methods had begun to provide new insights into the fundamental nature of matter, and these negated the Greek philosophical position of form over matter. This change in scientific thinking was contemporary with the teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith in the theological realm. Joseph's teachings returned theology to the intimate relationship between God and mankind of early Judeo-Christian writings. These concepts were in contrast to the position that deity is an embodiment of principles and philosophical ideals that transcend in importance the physical realities of matter. Furthermore, the view that matter was created from nothing, ex nihilo, a concept dominating theological and scientific thought for many centuries and is still widespread in 19th century thought, lost the support of modern science and was opposed by the gospel restored by Joseph Smith. Modern scientific theories of matter from Antoine Lavoisier, I'm not a Frenchman, 1743 to 1794, to Aaron Schrodinger's 1887 to 1961, maintain the permanence of matter. In the 20th century, the atomic theory has embodied several fundamental nuclear particles and powerful mathematical theories. Some falling outside of human intuition account for the properties of matter newly discovered in this century. Concepts have led to the development of unified quantum mechanical and quantum dynamic theories for both matter and light. The conservation law of Lavoisier has been extended to include all equivalent forms of matter and energy and still constitutes one of the primary pillars of modern science. It is significant that the teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith and the restored gospel on the eternal nature of physical matter, along with a parallel in the spiritual realm, embody these conservation principles. Here is a key statement again by Joseph Smith himself, who wrote regarding this subject on matter, saying, "The elements are eternal." Doctrine and Covenants 93 verse 33 says, "For man is spirit. The elements are eternal, and spirit and element, inseparably connected, receive a fullness of joy." It's talking about the spirit uniting with the body at resurrection time, being completely connected, never to be inseparable again. Anything created cannot be eternal, and earth, water, etc. had their existence in an elementary state from eternity, end quote. Now, let me say here that this revelation by the prophet Joseph Smith is one of, if not the main reasons I say, I too am a naturalist or materialist. But let me explain. I'm a naturalist in the sense that I believe that everything consists of matter in some form or another, especially spirit matter, which is a form of unseen matter, at least for now, but it is felt, and its effects are felt and seen and measured by the heart and the spirit if we look and search our feelings closely, and it has always existed in some form or another. Addressing the issue of creation ex nihilo, Joseph Smith asserted the following in one of his final sermons before his martyrdom in June of 1844, and I quote, "Now, the word create does not mean to create out of nothing, ex nihilo. It means to organize, the same as a man would organize materials and build a ship. Hence we infer that God had materials to organize the world out of chaos and chaotic matter, which is element. Element had an existence from the time God had. The pure principles of element are principles which can never be destroyed. They may be organized and reorganized, but not destroyed. They had no beginning and can have no end." End of quote. Dr. Land continues, "Such reorganization of element may account for the age of our earth being tens of thousands or even billions of years old, and maybe it's why relics of people living on it are tens of thousands or billions of years old. We just don't know for sure of these things to a certainty as yet." Extending the concept of the eternal nature of matter to the substance of spirit, Joseph Smith again revealed, Doctrine and Covenants 131, 7-8, "There is no such thing as immaterial matter. All spirit is matter, but it is more fine or pure, and can only be discerned by purer eyes. We cannot see it, but when our bodies are purified, we shall see that it is all matter." End quote. Matter and spirit are the two great principles of all existence. Everything, animate and inanimate, is composed of one or the other, or both of these eternal principles. Matter and spirit are of equal duration. Both are self-existent, they never began to exist, and they never can be annihilated. Matter, as well as spirit, is eternal, uncreated, and self-existing. However infinite the variety of its changes, forms, and shapes, eternity is inscribed in indelible characters on every particle. It's almost 15 minutes. Man, that went fast. Comments. I'm interested in your thoughts. We'll continue on and pick this up. The next topic, as it expands on what we've just discussed, will blow your mind. But until then, make your comments, share your feelings. I'll do my best to get to answering whatever questions you have. But until then, I wish you continued success. Good night.